It's time for yet another delve into the wacky, perplexing world of Richard Vobes. He may not be quite as tantalizing as Mark Steele, but as British conspiracy theorists go, he's definitely towards the top of the pyramid of lunacy. Richard Vobes, aka the Bold Explorer, hosts a daily YouTube show where he interviews some of the most insane conspiracy theorists you might ever want to shake a stick at. And if I were you, that is all I would ever shake in their general direction, because they are easily provoked. People such as this guy, do you remember him from a few weeks ago? He is the man who believes that you can destroy clouds simply by boiling a pot of malt vinegar in your back garden. Or what about this guy? He believes you can pay off all manner of debts simply by writing an IOU note, or as he likes to call it, a promissory note. They're just two of a random sample of absolute nutcases that Richard Vobes has chosen to feature on his channel. He's a very selective man. Only the nuttiest of nutters get to go on Vobes, which, by the way, is quite odd, because there is one nutter who has never been on the Richard Vobes show, and that would be the person whom this channel is named after. That's right, Mark Steele has never guested on the Richard Vobes show. One day we'll find out why, but today we have a more pressing mystery in hand, and that is the case of the mysterious, suddenly appearing black poles.
So here's a question for you. Is this a 5G tower? Is this one of the new set of 5G towers that are being erected in my town, here in Worthing, in West Sussex?
I'm sure you'll agree that this is a truly perplexing mystery. Why is it that some nameless council workers have chosen to install a set of black as night poles into the pavements of the town of Worthing, and at the same time nobody saw fit to inform or inquire with Richard Vobes as to whether this was a sensible idea? And more to the fact, what is the purpose of these poles? Could it be something entirely harmless, like a support structure for some form of street lighting maybe, or a entirely harmless communications array intended to help people perform their daily functions, such as navigating around the town of Worthing? Or is it something entirely malicious? Well, of course, there is only one man who is sufficiently very expert to answer that question. And of course, I'm referring to Mark Steele, otherwise known as the Gateshead Gunman. He is the man who famously shot a teenager in the year 1992, but since then has been claiming that he has 35 years of energy sector research. We're not sure when those years of research might have happened, because it is entirely incompatible with any chronology of Mark Steele that yours truly is aware of. But that is what Mark Steele claims. And this is why he believes he is the only man qualified to answer Richard Vobes' question.
I've just seen a video done by Richard Vobes. Now, Richard, yeah, it is 5G, by the way, and it's part of a densification, basically kill box.
The question that Richard Vobes asked at the top of the show is purely rhetorical. He's not in the least bit interested in our opinion as to whether these things are going to be topped with 5G transmitters or not. He's telling us that they are. But more to the point, he's telling us that he endorses Mark Steele's conspiracy theory that these 5G transmitters are actually directed energy weapons. Why on earth would the council install a cluster of 5G energy weapons at strategically pinpointed locations in that town's neighborhood? Why on earth would they be wanting to decimate the population as per Mark Steele's conspiracy theory? Well, such things have happened before. For example, between East Berlin and West Berlin, in the gap, the no man's land between the sections of the Berlin Wall, there were automatically gimbaled machine guns whose purpose was to eradicate anybody who sought to cross. They used computers and sensors to automatically point and shoot a gun. So It's not completely unthinkable that these things could exist. It's just kind of perplexing that Richard Vobes thinks that Worthing Council are just as murderous as the Stasi.
Behind me is Worthing Town Hall. Somewhere in there is a human being who put pen to paper and signed off the erection of these 5G towers.
It looks like this thing's been deployed across Worthing without any environmental impact analysis or any planning permission.
Over this series, I've been trying to keep track of the sheer depth and breadth of Mark Steele's claimed knowledge. Do you remember way back in episode 4, we had Mark Steele lecturing us on the subject of power systems engineering and nuclear waste disposal. He claimed to be an expert in both of these topics. More recently, we've had Mark Steele flexing his legal muscles because he's been attempting to represent his friend in court and doing a terrible job of it. Of course, Mark Steele also claims to be a weapons systems engineer, having worked at some unspecified job for the British Ministry of Defence, a truly bonkers and, let's face it, incorrect claim. He also claims to have had 35 years of energy sector research. I have no idea when those 35 years actually happened, because they could not have been in the earlier or later parts of his life. Who the hell knows? Mark Steele certainly isn't telling us. But anyway, to add to that extremely fertile pile of knowledge, we plop one more juicy nugget of dung onto the pile, and that is his deep and profound knowledge of Worthing Town Council's planning policy. Because Mark Steele seems to know perfectly how their planning system works. And I think I can give you a quick summary. So if you want to change the purpose or use of a building, for example, converting a pub into a residence, or maybe you want to build a loft extension, get an extra room for your teenage son, or perhaps you just want to build up some kind of kitchen extension to the back of your house. Well, if you don't apply for planning permission, Worthing Town Council will come at you like a pile of bricks smashing into your head. You will regret the day you messed with Worthing Town Council. However, if what you had in mind was to install a series of deadly energy weapons at carefully chosen choke points in the city for the purpose of murdering the entire population, well, that apparently is a-okay. The source? Well, the source is Mark Steele, and he knows everything about everything.
Apparently, Worthing is going to be connected.
There's a 5G mesh grid.
Improved internet connection.
So it covers the whole of the town.
Well, who asked for that?
Improved internet connection. Who on earth would have asked for that in the busy tourist town of Worthing, a town frequented by hundreds of thousands of people per month in the high tourist season of August? Who on earth in this scenario would benefit from improved, more scalable, higher speed internet connection able to handle greater numbers of connections concurrently with far greater reliability? I can't think of anybody at all who would benefit from such a situation, which means that Richard Vobe's question still goes entirely unanswered. He is truly a master of rhetorical questions. Who could possibly benefit? Well, while you're pondering that exciting question, let's delve back into that other equally exciting topic of Worthing Town Council's planning policy, a subject which I know will thrill and enrage you all in equal proportions.
The government has given licensed telecom operators permitted development rights to carry out certain types of telecoms development without planning permission.
It's not covered under these, these pre-planning permitted developments.
I'm sure after hearing this exciting material, you are all literally and metaphorically at the edge of your seats with a sense of rapt excitement and concentration. After all, what could be more thrilling to the average YouTube viewer than an in-depth discussion from two zany conspiracy theorists about the consequences and intricacies of small seaside town planning policy? I know it's one of my favourite subjects, and I'm considering devoting an entire series to this most important topic. But perhaps, if you're anything like me, there's a little nagging doubt. You're wondering, how is it that Richard Vobes, a man whose most important previous credits was playing a mute character on Scottish children's television, followed by a series of also mute characters on the British TV police procedural The Bill? How is it that this man, who has in his TV career said so little, suddenly seems to know so much about a subject which is so far outside of his basic training? And the reason, I think, is that Richard Vobes has been taking some advice, not from the usual kind of expert, but from a very expert.
I spoke to Mark Steele, who's an expert on 5G. So what we need to do is to get a Freedom of Information Act and ask for the environmental impact document. Apparently, we've all signed up to this stupid man-made problem of global warming, and everything's getting hotter.
Increase the temperatures, large amounts of power output.
So anything that goes into the town that makes the town hotter should be a no-no. We can't have that. Microwave radiation is going to increase the temperature. We're not supposed to be doing that.
This is truly bizarre, because Richard is claiming that 5G might be the cause of anthropogenic global warming, the process which is causing our planet to heat up, even though he does not believe that global warming is a real thing. So 5G is harmful, according to Richard Vobes, because it is causing an effect which he personally believes does not exist. Either that, or he is attempting to cynically exploit other people's belief that the Earth is indeed warming in order to promote his ludicrous conspiracy theorist. And that was something that I had intended to spend the whole of the rest of this show pondering about, until something happened.
We have some breaking news right now that Richard is in prison.
Richard Vobes has been arrested.
Well, I haven't actually visited Richard Vobes.
Is under house arrest, has been sent to prison, is in the gulag.
That's impossible in a YouTube prison.
The Damocles sword of YouTube has swung and smashed me squarely in the face.
Richard Vobes has been banned from YouTube.
It's that Richard Vobes has had his channel banned.
Got a YouTube strike.
YouTube prison.
So he's been stopped from uploading and messing with YouTube for, I think, a week.
Not for a week, for 3 months.
This one hadn't even gone out. I had just uploaded it raw.
Because of a video that he hadn't even actually put out, he'd only uploaded it. What I would have considered quite a harmless little video.
And suddenly you were like, oh, you can't get in the town, you can't do anything.
Richard, myself, and indeed other channels like this are being labelled as mis and disinformation.
Now, I woke up this morning to discover that I'd been strucken off.
Free Richard Vobes. Free Richard Vobes. That's a campaign slogan I think we can all get behind, because I'm sure, just like me, you all agree that Richard was unfairly stricken from YouTube. What did he do? Well, he simply posted a series of videos containing unhinged and fantastical conspiracy theory content, such as telling people not to vote in the period leading up to a general election. I can't see why any major media conglomerate such as YouTube would be concerned about such a thing as that, given that that was precisely what happened in the 2016 and 2020 elections that led to a lot of media companies getting in so much bother. Richard, I'm sure, continues to believe that he has been the victim of some awful, nasty censorship. And we can all go campaigning on his behalf. I'm sure that's what you're all immediately going to do as soon as you have finished watching this exciting show. But, well, where does that leave Richard? Still wandering around the streets of Worthing, still suffering the consequences of the summer heat on his unprotected head. And it's only natural that he should find solace amongst like-minded and like-headed individuals. So for this last clip, who else but a set of taxi drivers would be the perfect people for Richard to interview and agree with?
And then, as you can see up there, the little nodules, that'll be where the antennas go. The 5G microwaving antenna. I'd hate to be a taxi driver sitting right underneath it.
Get fried. Look at my hair.
We've been radiated already just at the thought of it.
I know.
But these are going out all over the
28
place.
we got in Worthing.
28.
Be just like a big microwave.
It will.
It will.
It will.
Wasn't that a perfect summary for how the Richard Vobe show works? He has found the least qualified people to speak on a certain subject, and then he has given them a platform onto which to air their utter twaddle. That's what he does every single day of the week, and that's why conspiracy theorists seem to love the Richard Vobe show. It's because he is the magnet that attracts the most ludicrous conspiracy theorists, except, of course, the one who's most conspicuously missing from his show. So with that, I must end. I actually have an overnight assignment. I'm going to be strapping on some high-vis clothing and then covering my high-vis clothing with khaki. And of course, that's because I'm travelling down to the town of Worthing, where I volunteered to help install more of these mysterious black poles. And they're all going to be surrounding Richard Vobe's house to give him a sense of profound unease. But he need not worry, because as we all know, these are harmless communications devices intended to support the growing appetite for mobile communications. And anyone who doesn't believe that is, well, what are they? Are they genius truth tellers or raging idiots? That shall be the topic of our discussion. And I shall see you all in 1 week's time.